Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jarrod Weber and I'm from We Media. Hello, if I haven't met you before. I could probably talk about popcorn for 10 or 15 minutes, but we're just going to talk about cinema today. So, the new media landscape in Vietnam, cinema advertising. A little bit about my background. So, I opened JJW Vietnam in 2010 in Hanoi and did the first cinema advertising campaign in 2012. In 2013, we became the exclusive media agency for Platinum Cineplex in Hanoi. In 2015, we opened We Media here in Ho Chi Minh and became the exclusive media agency for Lotte Cinemas. And now we're also working with other cinemas as well. So some of the main things I want to talk about today. Cinema is growing incredibly quickly here in Vietnam. Also, cinema is a little bit different from TV and from digital and some of the other media that you have. It's quite impressive and can be interactive as well. So I'll share some examples of that with you. And also effective. So looking at cinema as it's grown from 2010 until now, okay? So in 2010, you can see here all the big brands in Vietnam and listed some of the small brands below. And we can see that there were 21 cinemas in 2010 across Vietnam. Then from 2014, started growing. So we had 64 cinemas in 2014, increasing more than 20 locations year on year to 2017. And we expect this to continue for at least the next 5 years, at least 10 or 20 more cinemas every year across the country. So when we're talking about cinemas, we don't only care about locations, we also care about screens, and we also care about the number of cities we're in, because now the coverage in cinema is large enough in Vietnam that it's worthy of being noticed. So CGV at the front here, you see they have 258 screens now across 40 cinemas in 12 cities in Vietnam, mostly in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. Lotte Cinemas, 133 screens across 29 cinemas in 19 cities in Vietnam. Galaxy, 43 screens, BHD 45. At the moment, Platinum only has 9. If you're following the cinema news at all, you know that they just forcibly shut down a few cinemas in Hanoi in Vincom properties, so we're going to wait and see what happens with those there. So as I mentioned, now cinema coverage, while before it was just spread in just Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh and the 6 key cities, now we have international standard cinemas in a lot of provinces and secondary cities across Vietnam. So the coverage is really growing quickly. So we know it's growing quickly, so now what can we do in the cinema? The great thing about the cinema is, as Carrie said, that we have a captive audience. And we can communicate with the audience from the moment they walk in the door until the moment that they leave. Walking through the lobby, sitting around, hanging out, talking with their friends, watching the show, and then walking back out. So some of the things that we do is a ticket backside advertising, product sampling, activation in booth, poster frame, advertisements on the LCD system, seat covers, and then also the TVC on the big screen. So we can communicate in a variety of ways and reinforce the message many ways. We can also do some more interesting interactive activities as well. And I'd like to show you a video about this, please.
All your friends, they had your goods right.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the effectiveness of cinema. We know clearly about our demographics in the cinema. Recently, we had a study done by AC Nielsen. We have this information for you here. So the household income of our cinema goers at Lotte Cinema in Vietnam is Class A and Class B, okay? On our moviegoers, mostly between the ages of 18 to 22, but then as well 23 to 30. Gender, more females, more ladies going to the movies than men. And the occupation, of course, a lot of students in that age group and employees as well. So we also wanted to see how effective is cinema, because actually there hasn't been much research or much data on cinema effectiveness in Vietnam. So what we did is we checked to see what was the conversion rate from ad awareness to purchase intention, So what we found when we ran the ad in Lotte Cinemas, 90% of the cinema goers were aware of the ad. 100% of the audience who remember watching the ad are aware of the brand. 62% of the audience are aware of the brand and understand the ad message. 71% of the audience who remember watching the ad like the ad. And 39% of the audience who remember watching the ad have intention to buy the product. Then we wanted to see, how does adding cinema to the media mix add value to a campaign? So what we did is we did some research in shopping malls, not in the cinema, asking people if they'd seen this campaign and where they'd seen it, if they'd seen it in the cinema or in other places. What we found was that brand recall went up 103%, message recall went up 122%, and likability went up 106% when cinema was added to the campaign. And an interesting thing to think about is that right now the way cinema is used, actually the budget for cinema is very small. So if any campaign is utilizing the cinema, they're spending maybe 1 or 2%, and they're still getting this kind of value. So what's going to happen? You know, Zhang mentioned that a lot of the dramas and a lot of the entertainment in Vietnam is from Korea. And the Korea is used as a benchmark for what's happening in the entertainment industry and what can happen in the entertainment industry in Vietnam. So if we look at this, we know here already about Vietnam, we have 94 million people. In South Korea, we have 50 million people. Right now in Vietnam, we have 128 cinemas. In South Korea, we have 346. In Vietnam, we have about 500 screens. In South Korea, we have 2,500 screens. As I said before, we're going to be increasing at least 20 locations and 100 screens every year for the next 5 years. This is going to be mostly driven by the 2 Korean companies, CGV and Lotte. Local guys are growing too. I can say with confidence that this number will be achieved. Probably likely we'll be doing more like 25 to 30 locations every year. So, cinema is going to keep growing, and it's a real interesting opportunity, I think, for brands to get involved.
그 검이 니아비의 심장을 찌른 검이다.
All right, that's all. Thank you very much.